start with the start of the week, and that's Gino Smith set up for a huge game against the Arizona Cardinals. Dino has been on fire. 4 of 5 games so far this season with 20 or more fantasy points. 3 in a row with at least 23 fantasy points. And now he's taking on the Cardinals defense that has allowed 3 quarterbacks already to score at least 22 fantasy points. The best thing that Gino's doing, we love it on the other side of this for his receivers, targeting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett a lot. They are 2 of 19 wide receivers on the season with at least 40 or more targets, so they're getting the ball and they're making things happen. They're doing it for Gino Smith. He's running the last 2 weeks, 62 yards on the ground and a touchdown. This should be a smash week for Gino Smith. Starting him over Tom Brady. I'm starting him over Matthew Stafford. That's an easy one. Starting him over Joe Burrow. Starting him over Kirk Cousins. I think it's going to be a big week for Gino. As you see, we all like him as at least a top 8 quarterback. So, Heath, you're the low guy. Why?
I am the low guy on Gino Smith at number 8. Imagine if you told us that at the beginning of the year, week 6. Listen, I am always the regression guy, and I don't want to do that here. Gino Smith's playing awesome football. It's not something where he has to be worse because of this, because of that. I do have concerns of how long it's going to last, but when a guy's 5 weeks into the season, leading the league in completion percentage and passer rating, you just roll with the hot hand until it's not hot anymore.
And he had a tough matchup last week, so I don't blame people for not using him last week, but I always thought it was a good idea.
He was at 55% roster last. Nobody was buying in.
No, but now everybody's buying in because he went to New Orleans and he had a monster game against them. He's been doing this for several weeks now. He gets Arizona at home. Now, the Cardinals do blitz a lot, so they are going to try and make him uncomfortable in the pocket. He's beaten the blitz a lot this year. He's a must-start quarterback.
Let's move on from the start of the week to some other starts for me, and I think it's going to be a week where we get some reward performances for guys that we've stuck with. Now, you might have a little hesitation to start some of these guys. I get this, but I think this is going to be the breakout game for Cam Akers, the breakout game for DJ Moore, and the breakout game for George Kittle. Akers gets a situation where I know nobody wants to start him, I get it, but get a situation against the Panthers where they're a little bit banged up on their defensive line. The Rams are 11-point favorites. They've stuck with Akers. He's got 3 or more games with 12 or more carries, and I think we're going to see a game where, because of the score, and the Rams actually looking a little bit more competent offensively. I know they got some offensive line concerns as well, but clearly the Panthers, long road trip. I don't care that they have a new coach. I don't think it's going to change anything. It's still the same guys calling the same defensive plays. This is going to be the week where Akers finds the end zone. DJ Moore, they're going to see a situation on the other side, chasing points. Rams are number 2 in fantasy points allowed to opposing wide receivers. We're going to see an opportunity where they're chasing points. They have tried to get him the ball involved. 2 games ago, 11 targets. Last week, 8 targets. I think he finds the end zone this week, breaks out of his slump a little bit. George Kittle, we've seen the build toward this a little bit where I should have had a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Last week should have had his first game with double digits of PPR points. Fumbled. He's not going to fumble. The Falcons stink against opposing tight ends. These 3 guys will reward you. Again, I get it if you're not going to start Akers or DJ Moore. You're clearly starting George Kittle. But this is the week for all 3 of them to have that breakout performance that we've been waiting for. Heath, let's talk about your starts. You got Gino Smith also on your list as a guy that you're buying into. Miles Sanders, Melvin Gordon, Allen Lazard, and Jacoby Myers. Let's talk about Melvin Gordon because last week stepped in for Javonte Williams, over 100 total yards. Mike Boone was there. Latavius Murray might be there. How will Gordon do in this matchup Monday night against the Chargers in our favorite phrase, the revenge game?
It is a revenge game, and those are always so important, especially when you're back in the place where you used to play. But no, I think you're going to see, just like last week, he had 18 touches in that game. On the ground, he was not particularly efficient, just 3.6 yards per carry, and he really hasn't been very efficient since week 2. I don't know that you get a huge yardage number, but I do think he gets in the end zone. I think he catches 2 or 3 passes. He's a low-end number 2 running back this week.
Dave, you agree?
Mostly. I think that offensive line's a real problem. And I know that the Chargers, ever since they've lost Joey Bosa, they've been a weirder defense. They're not getting nearly as much pressure
all season, though, with
on quarterbacks. That's true. And so let's just focus on that. If Gordon gets off to a good start, I think he's going to get more than 15 touches in the game. I think he's going to be awesome. But if he doesn't, they might go to Mike Boone. They might even go to Latavius Murray if he's active. It makes me a little bit hesitant, but that being said, he's still a number 2 running back. There's a lot of rushers on bye. I think he's going to end up being in plenty of lineups.
No Josh Jacobs, no Derrick Henry, no Lions guys. Yes, no Dameon Pierce. Can't leave him out. Clearly, you might want to lean on Melvin Gordon. I agree with that call. Allen Lazard, Jacoby Myers. Which of the 2 do you like better?
I like Lazard better. I think this could be the week where Aaron Rodgers breaks out. We said that a couple weeks in a row, but we've seen Lazard at least a touchdown or 100 yards in every game he's played this season, 8 targets in each of his last 2 games. This might be the worst defense that he's faced all year. Would not be surprised if this is a game where he gets into the end zone twice.
And Myers?
Lots and lots of volume. Love him more in PPR than you do in non-PPR. He's fine in half PPR, but I think you should expect 7 catches on a weekly basis, and maybe he'll even score a touchdown.
Dave, which of the 2 do you like better?
I like Myers better. I think if it's just Ramondre Stevenson, there's no Damien Harris, I think the Patriots will feel it's a little necessary to try and take some pressure off of Stevenson from being a workhorse guy. And Myers is more than just a slot receiver for the Patriots. He's lining up everywhere. He's still running routes that a slot receiver runs. He crosses the field and does all that stuff. But he's become a really easy target for any of their quarterbacks to throw to. I love him this week.
And we'll find out if Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones is going to start, but we've seen the last 2 games for Jacoby Myers, 18-plus PPR points in both of those outings. Did score last week. That's not something we typically expect from him, but clearly the catches and the yards should be there for him. You could probably put a floor. I think Adam Azer said on our podcast he's been going back to last year, like his last 9 games, I think it's 9 PPR points since last season, but with 4 of those games over 12 PPR points. So not a lot of highs, but certainly a very safe option for you and could be very good this week against the Cleveland Browns. The starts for you, Dave. You got Kirk Cousins, A.J. Dillon, Christian Kirk, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Hayden Hurst. Let's talk about Cousins because his performances so far on the road have been pretty miserable. However, facing a Dolphins team that could be down Xavier Howard, secondary's a little bit banged up, could be a good bounce-back opportunity for him on the road.
That's what I'm counting on. The Dolphins have given up at least 23 fantasy points to 3 of the past 4 quarterbacks they faced. That includes 23 points to Burrow, huge games to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And I don't think it's going to be a huge game for Kirk Cousins. That's why he's barely a top 12 quarterback, but he has given you 22 or 23 fantasy points in 3 of his past 5 games. They are going to blitz him, and so that means he's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly, but I think they're going to be able to navigate around that, and Cousins will be okay.
And if no Howard there, again, the secondary a little bit banged up, so easier opponent for the Dolphins. Let's talk about A.J. Dillon, because he's a start for you and a sit for you, so why do you like A.J. Dillon? And then, Heath, you can make the case against A.J. Dillon.
I like him better in non-PPR, but I think the pressure's on the Packers now to run the ball after they didn't do it last week. Matt LaFleur talked about it. Dillon saw a season-low 6 touches, and he still averaged almost 6 yards per carry. The Jets are giving up 4.9 yards per carry to the Steelers and the Dolphins running backs over the past week. Think about the running backs on those teams, and the Jets are giving up basically 5 yards per carry against them, and all 4 rushing touchdowns the Jets have allowed have come in the red zone. Dillon gets as much, if not more, work in near the goal line than Aaron Jones gets. I think he's got a better than usual chance to score. Again, like him better in non-PPR than full PPR because he's not getting targeted a lot in PPR, but I still think he's worth starting as a low and number 2 running back.
I would agree with liking him more in non-PPR than PPR, but he has 4 catches over his last 3 games. He's just doing nothing there. So you have to be really good in terms of rushing to justify that, even non-PPR if there's no work. He only had 6 carries in last week's game, had 12 just 2 weeks before against Tampa Bay. It just seems like they do have to get their running backs more involved. Aaron Jones has been so much better than him. I think you get Aaron Jones more involved. Just 32% of the snaps last week for A.J. Dillon.
And I think the one thing to look at is we thought he was going to have a big game last week because the Giants couldn't stop the run either. And so I'm hoping that he is going to find the end zone. Really, that's what's going to be the difference. If he scores, he'll be, okay, great, I'm glad I started A.J. Dillon.
True.
He just does not find the end zone, which has been very frustrating for him. So hopefully this is the week that he does deliver. Let's talk a little bit about MVS. Curious why you like him, because he's had 1 decent game so far this season despite a lot of opportunities.
And it was last week, and I think something's starting to click with him and Patrick Mahomes. And I've talked a lot about how the Chiefs use their wide receivers based on the type of coverage they get. Well, this is the only receiver they have that's been good against man and zone coverage. They're going to see a ton of zone coverage in a game with a 53.5-point over-under. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is the best wide receiver, not for the game, but for the Chiefs, ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's got plenty of upside. Look for him to get going. I think 15 PPR points might be right around where he lands again this week.
You know, they've been almost the same exact guy this year. I think Juju has 3 more catches. MVS has 1 more yard. Neither one of them has scored a touchdown, but you've talked a lot about how Juju's really only going to have success against zone defense. This Bills team through the first 4 weeks of the season played the 3rd most zone defense in terms of coverage. I think this is a Juju week. They're both number 3 wide receivers for me, but I prefer Juju.
They got to score. I mean, they're just not finding the end zone. We know they're not red zone options at all with how they're using their tight ends and their running backs. And so if they don't find the end zone, could be a little frustrating. So we'll see how things go there for both MVS and for Juju. Dave likes MVS in this matchup.